before 5, or else my weekend is fucked.
What's up?
The timber place to collect the click and collect.
Where's that?
Powdered off road.
Where's that?
Kinsale roundabout.
Okay.
Next one over. Near where we got the phone. Jeez, lads are in early with the questions today.
Jesus Christ. What the fuck? So is my hair. Jesus Christ, let's get on a haircut again.
Did you use conditioner?
No, if I use conditioner, my hair just goes like this. Like,
Are you serious?
yeah.
I never use shampoo or conditioner. I just use a bar of soap.
On your hair?
Everywhere. Can you just, we're using a microphone today. Can you actually notice the difference in the audio?
Can you record on your desktop though?
I'm not recording anything right now.
Can you record the audio as well? Because I'm sure YouTube will condense the audio a bit compared to...
But does it condense the video? Does it sound good, yeah? Can you put in headphones there and listen to it on the thing?
Oh, I haven't there.
We want to try and make it make your listening experience as good as we can. Oh yeah, it is better.
Just to make sure it's high quality.
Yeah. I know the lads are just holding off commenting on my new haircut. Like, it's cool. Like, everyone's playing it cool. So I'm just chatting away as normal now into the thing, and Gurf is listening to it in his headphones, just to make sure our audio is quite good.
That sounds great to me. With you okay, so hang on. I'm just going to chat away. Lean away. Oh, you don't shit. Sorry. Let me give you a bit more rope. Okay, so I'm just going to talk away normal and see how that sounds. There's 33 people on it already. I think it sounds as good as it was.
Perfect.
It sounds perfect.
Okay, yeah, that's ideal. Thanks for bearing with us as we were working out. Right. Let's get kicking off because you are coming in hot and heavy with questions this week. Okay. Albu Pavel says hello. Hello, Albu Pavel. Dan Carter says, would a heavy loaded eccentric squat followed by removal of the weight at the bottom and lighter load concentric phase be effective, though impractical training method? This is actually it's not a common training method, but it's certainly a training method that's been done a fair bit in the past. You'll see they'll have a pillar that you put your weights on, and there's a hook at the top.
Weight releasers.
And the bottom of that pillar is like a triangle. So once you sit down and the weight goes flat on the floor, the hook comes off. I don't know anybody who needs to do that.
Yeah.
Like everyone's looking for a better mousetrap and stuff. The better mousetrap or the best way of getting stronger is just by actually training, by doing volume at the correct intensities and just doing normal squats at normal tempos, doing your accessory work. But certainly if it's something you're looking into, look at weight releasers. Very easy. They're pretty cheap. It's just a steel pole with an angled bottom on it and a hook on the top.
If you think about your training at the moment, you're thinking about your training needs. You're thinking about what you're trying to get better at. What are you available to you to do? You need to get better at squatting. Let's say it's squats, for example. Yeah, it is squats. You said heavy eccentric squats. What benefit would you get from doing this exercise that you wouldn't get from doing something simpler or just doing more squats? Is this to get better at squats? Then the answer is almost always just to do more squats. Just keep squatting is the answer in this case. You know, there's two ways of training. There's the most efficient way of training and there's the most effective way of training. The effective way of training is maxing all the time and taking a boatload of gear and gain as much body weight as you possibly can and just training. And this will get you a better squat for sure to a certain point. The most efficient way of training is the thought process how we go about training. All our people and all our programs is you go the least amount of work you need to improve, the least amount of weight you need to do, the least amount of volume you need to do, the least amount of body weight gain or no body weight gain, the most efficient exercises, the most condensed training sessions that you can do. And then only when you need to do more, do you do more. That's how you should kind of think about training. So I'd say when you think about this, not only weight releasers, but any other form of training, you could say, oh, but chains could really help me when I lock out. And you're like, or would you just get better benefit, more transfer over from doing just normal bench as opposed to weighted bench, or not weighted bench, from chains on your bench? You know, just think about things. why would I do this thing? Could I just get here a little bit more simpler and a little more consistently? I would say you should always kind of think about things in training like that, because, these things, I understand when you're training yourself and you're like, what do I need? What do I need to do? I want to get better.
What do I need right now?
I mean, to make sure I'm getting better all the time, and that's why we have coaches. Well, we don't, but that's why we coach other people.
Right. Albu Havel says, I know you avoid injury questions,
right there.
but I'm going to ask an injury question anyway. We could give an answer, but we're not going to. And it's nothing against you or anything, Albu, but it's just like legal protection for myself and Owen, as well as us understanding that healthcare professionals have a very important job to do without numbnuts like us and meatheads.
I wouldn't try the healthcare professional trying to teach people how to snatch or get faster running.
No. So just go and see someone. Okay.
Nishkal Limbus, Dr. Demographic says, what's good? But Nishkal said, how is your clean program structured? So it's 2 sessions a week, just your clean work. You can do it for clean or power clean. So if you're a weightlifter, you want to get a bigger clean, or if you're an athlete who wants to get bigger power clean, there's some alternatives or derivatives. If you're running the program as a power clean, it's very, very simple. If you're just doing for the power clean, follow the instructions for the power clean. If you're doing for the clean, you'll follow the instructions for the clean. There's 2 sessions. There's the clean and clean variations, and then there's clean deadlifts and clean RDLs in the program. So that's all that's in the program. It's 8 weeks, 2 sessions a week, and you peak at the end of the week. 8 weeks, and peak at the end of the 8 weeks, not the end of the week.
Aaron is checking in here, but Aaron has a strange thread of comments as we go through. So he says, good morning, ladies. But then later on, Aaron says, the S and I are aggressive.
He's talking about the mic, maybe?
Sound.
You could be drunk.
And image. Aaron, I'm not sure what that means, but if you...
when are the Fat C pig shirts coming? We maybe should do one of those. Alex is a genius with this kind of stuff. Like, we send him like a baby drawing of what we wanted, and then he comes back with bam,
boom, boom. Yeah, literally just like
a barbell.
Yeah, it's a barbell with a hand.
It's a hand in the barbell, and Alex comes back with this kind of stuff.
Okay,
that would be funny.
Next question: S_. How important do you think a training partner is? I think a training partner is so important. I think it's absolutely vital. Obviously, Gerf's going to have a different opinion to this with me, but I think it's the difference between a lot of people continuing on with a sport, or a lot of people pushing themselves harder with a sport, just adhering to sport an awful lot better. You also tend to make better decisions, even though we can all be pressured into doing dumb things when we're training with our friends. But I think a training partner is vital. I've just seen it with my own athletes as well over the last few years of kind of falling in and out of different groups as they're training. I think they're a very good tool.
Having a training partner can certainly have some negatives, though. So you can have people, you can become reliant on a training partner. You could not want to train alone. And if you do go training alone, if you normally train in a training partner, you might get halfway through a session and be like, oh, fuck this, I'm just going to go home. No one's here to watch me, whatever. So there is a certain point of like dependence on a training partner. My opinion, you should be able to do your best lifts without anyone around. You should be able to get hyped up. Yeah, for sure. If you find yourself that you are heavily reliant on a training partner, I think you should take a look at yourself. But if you're well balanced psychologically for training, then I think training with people more often is better. If they're doing the same stuff as you in general, for most people, I think it's beneficial. It's not a must-have, but it's a nice to have, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone's checking in, saying hello.
Hello.
Alex Argila saying he's going to run the squat program after his next competition.
Ooh,
great. Get ready for some gains. Okay. Aaron was talking about the audio. John Seller says, afternoon, fellas. In the same way as you've said, the clean program could be transferred to power cleans. Could the snatch program be transferable to power snatches? The snatch program is slightly different in the fact that there's 3 streams. So the first one is just getting a better snatch. Second one is being stronger overhead. And then the third one is not smashing the bar and having a less loopy pull. In terms of getting the first one I mentioned there, the getting a new snatch PB, you could certainly do it with power snatches. But I would just...
We hadn't written those in mind of why. It would depend if you want power snatches for your sports and you really needed that power snatch for 8 weeks. You could get the high pull program, which would be the best, or the fix your pull. You could do that and then just replace all the full snatches with power snatches, and that would work. For example, with the clean program, we've different derivatives in for the power clean. So there's some slightly different variations, not much, but it's an easier one to replace. So you could definitely run the snatch high pull program for power snatches and just replace all the full snatches with power snatches, and it would work for sure. But it wouldn't be like, it would definitely work 100%, but it wouldn't be like a perfect 1-to-1 ratio of like if you did it for your full snatch, I would say.
Wolf Mooney is asking, or is just saying, he says, we answered his question a few weeks ago about overhead squats. And he said he added it into his repertoire and he snatched 100 kilos for the first time. Wolf, that's great news. Mainly because 100 kilo snatches is the last time you'll ever be happy in weightlifting.
No. When I got past 150, I was very happy.
Okay.
Only once, though.
Okay, so
only
give
once.
it 10 more years, you'll
only
be happy
once.
again.
Then when I got after more than that, though, it's not that much again.
No, the 100 kilo snatch is like, geez, you just feel great, don't you?
Fuck.
When I did
I can still remember it.
When I did 125, I felt very good, but it was nothing like 100. 100 is a whole other trip you're going on.
I was going to say 100 was better than 151.
It
was because I was like, I've told the story just in case people haven't heard this. It was the London Olympics is on. I've been lifting, I think about 9 months at this stage. I saw Eli Alien lifting at London. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, what the fuck is this? Then a New Zealand coach put up a video of him snatching 160 in the training hall.
Yeah.
And my brain was like, oh my God, this is just like, it did something to my brain. It was 10 o'clock in the morning. I just had a cup of coffee, no breakfast. And I just ran up to the cow shed. And there were still cows in the shed where I was lifting. And I just literally went 60, 80, 100. And just
it's magical.
Oh, it's just, I'm tingling. Literal chills right now. It was so fucking...
It's just a great honest to God PB,
because 151 was finally I got past 150.
Yeah,
it wasn't 151's the number, it was just thank God I got back to 150.
Because I remember leaving the gym on the day I did 125.
Yeah,
and Dennis being with me, and Dennis being like, Joe, are you happy? Dennis was baffled by weightlifting being as a field sports athlete, he just doesn't understand how you'd enjoy lifting weights. He was like, is this as happy as you get? And I was just remember walking out through the roller doors and well being like, I suppose it is. 100 is phenomenal.
Why is it that it's 5 a.m. jam donuts as a snack make me so much stronger in the gym later that day? I don't know, but cheap jam donuts are the best.
They're just so good. Especially if you have good filter coffee with them.
Yeah.
Joe, the petrol station.
Yeah.
Cup of coffee, big mug of it. You kind of drink it as you're eating the donut and it soaks in your mouth. The most important question of the stream so far, how many Guinness a day for best performance? This is Jordy Williams.
I'd say 1 in the morning would get you going.
It depends what you're talking about by performance.
Yeah.
A 20-pint day is a huge performance in terms of drinking. Here it is. 20 pints in a day that's a red letter day in terms of your drinking.
How many pints are you drinking in a pint? Or
if you're clean doing 20-pint days, it's
it's not that bad. That's only about 2,000 calories.
20 pints of Guinness.
A bit more actually, 2,500.
So in terms of performance with drinking, Jordy, I would say 20 pints it's a huge day. It's a red letter day. You're probably hitting a PB. In terms of overall sports performance, I'd probably say 1 Guinness every 2 or 3 days is probably not too bad.
Nishal says, I have a huge weakness my clean, 6 kg less than my best front squat. Then, honest to God, I'd say that's exactly what you do is run the clean program. I would say.
Yeah, that's not needlessly selling things.
Which we don't do.
No, we actively try not to do it as well.
Yeah.
Sound quality is much better. An adult cut.
No, it's a great cut.
I think this is a great haircut for me. You have to understand that.
No, it is. That's the best haircut you've got.
I don't.
Nice fade. That's great. Dolby sound quality. Ken McGuire, can you recommend any coach him and Limerick to learn the basics of Oli lifting?
Actually,
PMI?
Yeah, go to PMI and go to Sarah O'Driscoll, one of my old athletes.
Yeah.
She was a phenomenal weightlifter. She doesn't really weightlift anymore. She's just taking a bit of a break, but she understands very well the lifts She started lifting with me when she was 15. So go to City Gym not City Gym. Go to PMI in Limerick. I'm not sure if Sarah's coaching up there, but she certainly trains there from time to time. And if she was able to do, I know she's doing a weightlifting workshop up there this weekend, and hopefully it goes really well for her. But if you could do a session with Sarah, great place to start learning the lifts. Yeah. She's coaching a good bit now, so that would be where I'd go.
She's the closest thing to an apprentice Fitz would have had for coaching weightlifting.
Yeah, the only person ever to.
Wow. Not a valuable comment.
Says, "Holy shit! The questions came quick. The questions were there before we even went live."
I think we're a bit after 3. Oh, Seb's here. Hey, Seb.
Hi, Seb.
Can you guys give some recommendations or maybe a video about best bang for your buck exercises for older adults? I'm trying to get my parents who are active. So, do you want to go?
No, you go, because I was about to answer it because I was like, I really want to answer this right now.
Okay.
But then I know that you do stuff with your parents with kettlebells, so you go first.
So goblet squats with kettlebells, phenomenal. Push-ups, if you can get them to do some variation of push-ups, are very, very good. But goblet squats are phenomenal. Aggressively walking up and down stairs is the best form of cardio you can get them to do. And then Turkish get-ups would be like...
The Turkish get-up is the
yeah.
You've gotten them there, you know.
If you could get them to do goblet squats in the morning, do them every day, literally every day, like for reps. But like, I think my mother uses like a 16 kilo kettlebell or something, and she is the most perfect body weight squat you'll ever see. Like, it's not from a stone. I like this.
No, and your father's squat is good as well.
Very good. He does some. If you can get them involved in weight training, back squats and deadlifts are phenomenal. It's super easy to teach them how to back squat, I think, and like start progressing. You could literally do 2 half-hour sessions, and if they've been active prior to that, back squats get very, very easy to teach. I might be biased, I suppose, because my genetics didn't come from nowhere, I suppose. But goblet squats, stairs for cardio is phenomenal, and Turkish overhead get-ups, and these are like 3 of the best things. Just high frequency and consistency with those. You don't really need to progress them. Just literally doing them is so much work. Like, just get to a certain volume. I think my mother does like 5 sets of 10. Some days she does like 50 reps in a row or something instead. She'll do like 20 minutes on the stairs, and then she'll do like the Turkish get-ups like once or twice a week if she can, if she has a lighter kettlebell. Those 3 will hit all of your numbers. You've got overhead stability. They're not that old, but if you've got someone like in their 70s or 80s, the Turkish get-up is something that could literally save their life and stop them from going to hospital. Often what happens when older people is they'll fall, osteoporosis will maybe contribute to a fracture in their hip. They will go into hospital. They'll get less quality sleep. They might be not the same food. They'll potentially end up getting some form of pneumonia or viral disease. And then obviously, you can have a fatal visit to the hospital, which is what you don't want to do. So you always want to, as you say, you're trying to keep them from slow physical decline. Just frequency and consistency with these will be I would highly encourage you. I think I meant to make a video about this before, because it's one of the best things you can do in your life is to teach your parents to do some of this stuff. And it's so simple. It's hard to get them to start, but if you can get them to do it, like, they will see the benefits, like, because being active is great, but like direct kind of physical exercise, especially resistance training, like your parents, if they give it a bit of time, they will never stop doing it, and it'll make such a huge difference. Like, people are talking about NAD plus, fucking NAC, growth hormone, fucking any number of things. But if you just start with like exercise and a diet, like you've hit so much stuff. And most of the honest anti-aging people will tell you that exercise, diet, and sleep are still the biggest bang for your buck for like anti-aging stuff to start with. If you do all those, then you can do the other stuff.
What I would say as well, like, to add on for everything Gareth has just said there, when you're starting off, it's the first like 10 days, 2 weeks are the most important thing. And this is whether you get someone coming to you in a gym setting or whether you're trying to bring it into somebody at home. You need to just incrementally increase from what they're doing now, and this starts from like, if they can sit down to a chair and stand back up out of a chair.
That's what we start with.
Yeah, you do that, and you do 5 of those in a row, and you do that a few times, then 10 of those in a row, and you do 5 sets of 10, and you're getting towards what looks like a training session, even though it takes 5 minutes to do as your whizzing in to collect your post or whatever, it has to be incremental more so than any other. Like, we're all always talking about athletic development here and what you do with teens and youths and how you get from a 180 squat to a 200 squat. The incremental nature of this kind of stuff is so much more fine than any of the stuff we'll ever talk about on the channel. Like, it's not a 5% versus 10% increase from week to week. It's literally, you're going from 0% to 1%. Even with people who are fairly active, the ability to recover isn't there. The ability to adapt isn't there as much. You just need to start so slowly. At the onset of any sort of DOMS, you'll probably get a dropout of 3/4 of that population. You have to make sure that everything you do makes their life better and doesn't retract at all, because if they're feeling that slow decline, or if they've any sort of sarcopenia or anything like that already happening, they're in a deficit, they're in the hole. You don't want to do that thing where you get them to exercise and they drop down and do that classic super compensation thing. It needs to be so slow, super snuck up onto them. So just like the sitting down and standing up out of the chair is the most easy place to start. And if I was to get a piece of equipment, so besides from the kettlebell Garth talked about, gymnastics rings, if you have somewhere to mount them at home, are so valuable, because you suddenly have an ability to scale back squats. You have an ability to scale back box step ups or something like that. You can get some upper body work done by like a really easy ring row where they're basically fully standing up and just barely ring rowing like 15% of their body weight. They're just super easy to scale. They tuck back in off the wall. They weigh nothing. It's not like they have to set up a squat rack and put plates and barbells up onto the squat rack. They're just hanging there. You can hang them outside, and they can do it on the patio outside the house.
Yeah, you should do it with them too. You should.
Yeah,
you should get
because you'll get value out of this.
Yeah.
If you're doing Turkish get-ups, you'll certainly. It doesn't matter if you have a 200 kilo bench press. You'll get some positive out of a Turkish get-up.
Can we figure out this by JNL saying I've started doing accessory 5 by 10 and dips and pull-ups with the same rest in between sets. I can get to 10 and the first 3 sets, and the last it drops off to 5 to 6. Is this a work capacity issue?
It could just be a strength issue or work capacity.
So the kind of recommendation for this, I think there was I was looking at meta-analysis recently, and they were kind of looking at like rest time between sets. Basically, the longer you rest doesn't really interfere with your gains, because I'll explain this better. You should prioritize getting the number of sets and reps that you want over the rest time in between each one of these sets. So you just see a negative interference with too shorter rest times. So it's recommended, and it's better that and we'd recommend this too. This is not something that would need a meta-analysis to see, but it's good to see kind of that kind of stuff. I'll see if I can find this. But you should prioritize getting all your sets and reps done, and then reducing the rest times a little bit, but they should reduce naturally by themselves. So you should never need to, like, unless you're in a work capacity phase, you should never need to force things. So if you're doing like sets of 10, if you're in good condition and you're able to do them, after like 2 or 3 minutes, you'll be ready to go anyway. But you can literally go as far as 8 to 10 minutes between sets of these if you need to. So I prioritize getting your sets and reps done first. Then I would look at maybe like, are you kind of out of condition? Or to be honest, after 3 sets of 10 on dips and pull-ups, they're very good numbers, like especially in the pull-ups. Mm-hmm. I would say it's probably just a strength issue, and you just need to rest a little bit more. You're going to hit a wall at a certain stage anyway. Even if you're doing a work capacity phase, you'd never be doing like 5 sets of 10 most of the time,
unless if you had 20 dead hang full pull-ups, I think, to be honest, people get really into the rest period stuff, and they're like, oh, I did this with only 90 seconds rest or 60 seconds rest. There's only one real period of training where we'll actively manipulate rest, and that's during a high capacity general physical preparedness piece, where the rest in between, or restriction of the rest in between, and get somebody to work while they're slightly fatigued, that's something we actually want. The rest of the time, we want people working when they're relatively fresh. Obviously, you don't want 5 minutes rest in between each thing, because it becomes hugely laborious. The duration of our sessions gets massive, and we're probably cooling down in between sets. But you want to be working out when you're fresh. You don't, like, there's only select times when you want to be, 90 seconds rest, 60 seconds rest, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you're just trying to find a way that you're still warm when you go through your next set. It's not taking too long to do the full session, but you're fully recovered.
Andrew's next. So I've So Andrew, listening to on the way home was only how could I best improve finger tendon strength and rebound as I started doing some putting for indoors for the crack. I assume he means like golfing, is it? So
No, it's a
putting. Oh,
shot putting.
so that's he does discus. Sorry,
Yeah.
yes. So tendons are very, very interesting. So for a while they kind of thought tendons were like didn't really respond to things in a quick time manner, but they are very responsive to training. Hence why you get tendonitis so fast, because they do adapt very fast and they lose their condition very fast as well. Like that's not as fast as muscles, but it is very, very responsive. So it in some ways it's a terrible thing because you can end up getting tendonitis quite easily in a short frame, but you can also cause your tendons to adapt quite fast. The main thing you need to do with tendons is a lot of time under tension. So that's their main. This is the best way to adjust them or train them when if you're trying to increase strength like that. So tendons are very, very resilient to change and very resilient to forces. That's their mandate, to kind of dissipate or enhance forces put into a tendon. So when you're trying to change them, things like this, what I would do is like beyond 45-second holds or more. So I'd be like pinch gripping plates. Don't get the ones with the ledges. So like try to get smooth plates, like smooth Alico competition plates, and just pinch gripping them as much as you can. Ideally for tendons, they kind of see in like tendon rehab studies, it's always like kind of minimum 45 seconds they see. So if you're looking for strength and stuff like this or adaptions, I'd be looking to push that and ideally push it a little bit longer. So gripping plates, it's like 3 to 4 sets of like 45 plus seconds would be a recommendation for this in terms of the fingies.
There's an interesting thing that happens as well with your tendons.
Or sorry, even the shot put, grip the shot put.
So like people, you'd see them doing like climbers will do fingerboard stuff where it's very small ledge and they'll hang like this. Like a lot of time there, you're just elongating tendons. You're just stretching tendons because the tendon isn't actively. You're just maintaining the hand in that position, but you're not trying to squeeze down into that position. So the tendon is just there. It's not really under force. It's just maintaining a position. So when you're holding the shot put or holding the plate, as Gareth said, you have to be squeezing into it. So your tendon isn't being stretched by the implement because you're in an isometric hold, but it's being stretched by the actual muscles themselves, which is the main thing you want during an isometric hold. Okay. Matty BNH says, does the thruster have any value or S&C value? Could it be the third lift in weightlifting? I think it has loads of S&C value.
It's in one of our weightlifting blocks, actually.
Yeah. I like it. It has a good value for actual weightlifters in the fact that really gets people to be stable in the bottom of their front squat. Because if you've somebody who's really flopsy or like loose in the bottom of their front squat, they'll just drop in. They'll kind of stand up. Like a lot of times they'll have a lot of mobility and they'll just throw their knees forward. They're never really gripping the bar. So I like it in that case, and it gets people to be fast in the front squat. But also a lot of rugby players I coach have it because this lifting movement in the line out is it's exactly it, or even tackling or going into a ruck where you're driving up. I like it.
Yeah, it is good for this kind of. So like if a lot of sports will use like the power clean, for example, for power training, whatever. So by nature, thrusters are a lot lighter than your max capability. So they'd probably be similar weights. So if you wanted to get that, oftentimes the thruster, you have to go fast from the bottom and you have to prime that whole thing. So I think they'd be a neat kind of addition to power training. If you had someone quite talented, if they had good mobility overhead, it wouldn't be a must-have. It would be, again, a nice-to-have in S&C context. For weightlifting, it's a great like work capacity movement, kind of high volume phase. It's pretty grim. If you get weightlifters to do like 3 or more thrusters, they're fucked. So it's a good in that sense. Just to that actually, I must give that to my lifters at the moment. But yeah, it is a good lift. I wouldn't do it as a third lift competition, but it is a neat lift. For S&C, if you had someone who had the talent, it could be very, very useful.
Okay, good question here. So Skylar says, if I can get a full depth squat, GTL just as a nice comment. So thanks for that, GTL. If I can get a full depth squat in Metcons, would it be extra beneficial to get weightlifting shoes? And this is an interesting note, right?
Metcons are great.
Metcons are great.
Yeah.
Weightlifting shoes are really beneficial. Let's grab one here. This video is coming tonight, by the way, the review of these. So you obviously have a heel raise, which everyone thinks about, but there's other aspects to a weightlifting shoe that make it so much more beneficial for weightlifting. So the first other aspect is the fact that they are fully flat. So you get a lot more ground contact than you tend to get in a normal shoe. Even the shoes I'm wearing now are like DC skate shoes, and you still get a small raise with the toes. So that's something you get immediately with a weightlifting shoe that you don't tend to get with most other training shoes. The other thing you get is way more support. So it's much more rigid material than you'll get in like particularly with the Metcons, where they have like that fly knit material. But in almost all other training shoes, they won't have this kind of rigid, hard material that's going to hold your foot in one position. So if you take, when you turn over a clean and you go to drive your feet into the ground to catch the bar, or you are in that amortization phase, where you're really driving up and trying to stop the bar, the last thing you want is any kind of movement with your foot. So if you have a more rigid shoe, even if you don't need the heel raise, a more rigid shoe is going to be way more beneficial. The last thing then is that you get like a really wide base of support with a weightlifting shoe. So they tend to have these little wings on them that just make everything a small bit wider than the actual like footprint of the shoe, or the footprint of where your foot is in relation to the ground. So you get a better base of support. They're just harder overall. So when you push your heel into the ground, you don't get any flexing of the material in the heel. So I would say there'd be a benefit to it. You just want to be sure, like if you have very good ankle mobility, you probably don't need a big, thick, chunky heel.
Hey guys, looking sharp as always. Thanks, Tom. Very naive question, but on a very little physiological level. What is occurring during a maintenance phase? So if you think about how you get stronger, there's a couple of different factors. Some of them are skill-based, and some of them then would be muscle and muscle-related movements, or muscle-related qualities, I should say. So you'd have things like muscle mass, antagonist coactivation, neural drive. You would have agonist activation, voluntary activation, all these things where it's just literally like sequencing the muscles in the right order, and gaining muscle mass. Then even minute amounts, we're talking like 50 to 100 grams of muscle mass in a training block for a natural athlete is something that is very, very valuable. So during a maintenance phase, all the work we're putting into that is building those qualities up to the best we possibly can. And then the great thing about strength is that you can put in 10% of the effort you took to get those qualities to that level, and you can maintain like 90% of those qualities to a certain level with like 10% of the effort. So during a maintenance phase, you just need to take a break physiologically, psychologically. You just need to kind of chill out for a little bit. And then you still want to do some of this movement in some of these things, but not actively kill yourself or push it. So during maintenance phase, you're just maintaining all those qualities with the least amount of work. So this kind of coming back to the efficient and effective training model. You want to be as efficient as possible, least amount of work. You want to be lazy as fuck with your training, your programming, to get everything. Give your chance to recover. Let your tendons relax a little bit if they've had some issues. Probably they shouldn't have, but to preempt any potential issues you've got from stuff. And then most people, a lot of people running the program have other agendas. So some people have running the program just want to squat more, which is perfect. But then other people, for example, have like sports to go back to, weightlifting to go back to. They've other lifts to prioritize, all this stuff. And so they just want to maintain that as much as possible and still keep the benefits, say.
In terms of like on a general level as well. So you're asking like what happens, the physiology of what happens. If you think all of those adaptations Gareth just mentioned happen because of stress, right? So they happen because of central nervous system fatigue. They happen because of muscular stress and muscular breakdown. They happen because of psychological stress and that kind of subconscious stress of constantly having to recover, constantly being in this stress state of every 2 or 3 days, you're squatting something really heavy. That stress doesn't just kind of filter out gradually as you keep training. That will build up, and particularly in a squat cycle as aggressive as the RTA, over the 8 weeks, by the end of it, there's a lot of physiological stress built up. So even though you're kind of still training away during a maintenance phase, you get a dissipation of those stress markers. So all your cortisol levels will drop. You'll just get a better biochemical response to training after you've taken some time off, because you'll be a lot more sensitive to those stressors again. Imagine we kept hitting you in the face with a plank of timber to make your squat better for 8 weeks. Then we take a break from it. Like at the end of the 8 weeks, you won't even notice getting hit in the face by the timber. You'll just be like, oh, the lads are doing it again. When we then take 8 weeks off and we go to hit you with the timber again, it will hurt a lot more the next time again.
I lose explosives to the back squat to below parallel. What do you suggest to me to be stronger in explosives at this point? Get stronger.
Yeah.
So
everyone loses it.
So if you imagine this is your joint, not your marijuana joint, just your knee here. If you look at your femur, and it's relation to your ankle. For example, you look at this angle here. As you squat up more, that angle just gets wider, and that's the weakest point. It's the hardest point for your body to overcome the inertia of coming up from out of the squat. And so this is the hardest place, and you have to miss the squat somewhere. And it makes sense that everyone misses the squat at their weakest points. That's why the shorter your femurs are, the more likely you are to be better at squatting, including reduced range of motion stuff. So what do? Just run the road your squat program if you want to get stronger at squatting, but just get better at squatting. There's no assistance work. There's no technique really that you can do unless you've like huge egregious technique errors, but there's no assistance.
No. If you want to read into that thing Gerf is talking about there, just Google muscle tension relation or muscle length tension relationship. And it's basically exactly what Gerf is saying there. There's certain lengths that a muscle fiber goes through where it's weaker. And there's certain ranges of that length where it's weaker. And it just so happens that around parallel, the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes aren't at their strongest point. And that's where everyone's going to fail.
Yeah.
You just need bigger squat.
Big ass.
Okay, Nicholas Larson forgot to post in the members stream. So Nicholas is on a courageous mission to get this video of the squat shoe review.
Yeah, the end will be tonight. And
it's tonight. It's actually right here. It's uploaded and all. It'll be up this evening.
Sebi Babe says, how do you determine the balance between working on Seeka the business, growth, reach, content, sales, and Seeka the programming service, writing programs, learning time, speaking athletes?
And there's second part.
And if I can add it to my question, how do you both split roles of the business? Did it from naturally, or did you have to split things based on personality difference? So to answer this, the second part of your first question first, that is kind of an issue we've had. We just haven't had a lot of time in the last 6 months to do new products. So there's loads of like teachable courses we want to do. There's loads of programs we need to do. And so initially, most of our time was spent with the growth and reach and making content. And obviously, it needs to be top-notch content. So that's why most time is spent on that. Speaking with our athletes, they are priced accordingly. That's why it's €200 a month to one-to-one coaching, is because it needs to be worth their while to take time away from doing the other stuff, from doing the YouTube videos and the podcasts, because it needs to be worth their while. Like the hours are valuable, and the hours when we're fresh need to be valued well. So that's why they are priced as that such. So that's why we kind of priced it higher, and we could afford to do that. And then determining the balance between working on Seeka. So most of the time is spent on that. That's like one of the reasons we hired Alex, is we wanted more time. But then we just ended up making more videos because we were fresher, because we didn't have to. There was more videos because we have a list of like 20 videos at the moment we want to make, and there's like 8 of those, or 8 separate ones recorded that Alex is working on. We're actually looking for Alex to take over all the editing, for example, but we just want to make sure he's enough time. So we might be getting maybe another editor. It depends on how things go. And so like we want more time to do the second part.
Yeah.
In regards to learning, I could spend a lot of evenings in a rare evening where I'm not doing anything, or maybe on like a Saturday morning or Saturday night. If I'm watching a movie with my missus or something, oftentimes I'll just start reading some of the Soviet books, or I'll start reading some papers, or I'll look at some of the Patreon people I'm subscribed to, or I'll just read some other papers, just because I just want to know things. I just want to learn things, and keep on top of stuff. And so usually the learning is in my free time. Although at the moment when I'm doing the kind of scripted videos, I have a chance just to learn stuff and learn some very interesting stuff. The new one on gene doping at the moment. So that was one that I get to learn. We do the paper reviews. They're a great chance for us to learn and stay on top of the research as well, because they're usually the freshest.
Yeah. The learning for me happens in 2 times. So the first time is like at home in the evenings or the mornings before I come in, and it's like a few group chats I'm in with people who did my master's or are in that kind of area, and it's psychology stuff. And that's just like interesting stuff. It's like response to training after 3 weeks break or whatever, and it like that's just interesting stuff that I like clicking on. I like reading. It's all kind of personally directed, like with the Irish versus the All Black stuff. There's some class stuff came out in the last week, just with different rugby players going through different psychological things. There's some stuff came out with Keith Earls that I've just been kind of constantly reading into the last few days. Those areas are like, that's the same as somebody watching like QI on YouTube, or watching what their favorite TV show. I just really enjoy doing that. The second time is like more directed learning, where we're asked something, or an athlete might approach me and say, I really need some information around like dealing with this certain area of my training. or I'm dealing with this certain psychological issue that I mightn't have helped someone with before, then I just go and study it as if I was studying it for an exam at university or it was part of my dissertation. That's just like work study, and I'll research it as such. It would be great to do like the dividing up stuff that has to be done with Sika. A lot of the time it's just like it has to be done. I have 15 minutes, I'm going to do the emails, or like Garth has 15 minutes, Garth will do the emails, you know.
Some of the stuff, like you said, like comparing like personalities versus naturally. I think the stuff that happened naturally as a result of personality. Like, for example, I won't do the account stuff. Like, I just won't do it.
Yeah.
I'm not. There's not even that much of it, but I just won't do it because I just don't want to do it. Like, I fucking hate doing that kind of stuff. But then, like, some stuff did happen naturally, like just upload most YouTube videos I would do, writing the questions, or like designing the new pants. It was just something I really wanted to do. So I just ended up doing it. I'm not sure Fitz would have certainly some thoughts about it, but
but it's just like
it kind of it depends really. Some of it happened naturally, and some of it happens with it. Some of us just won't do some of that stuff. You know? Like learning to use Photoshop and Premiere Pro wasn't something Fitz really wanted to do. You know, and even still reluctantly won't change software from his fucking Apple software.
I use Premiere Pro now.
Only because you realized it was better.
Only because the other stuff just stopped working.
Yeah.
No, it definitely is like a lot of it is just like here I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah. No, but that's fair though.
Yeah.
Edward says, first part of the meet on Sunday, any general advice, tips for your sessions? Don't eat anything different today. That's my main piece of advice. Don't eat different foods.
Nothing magic's going to happen.
Yeah.
That the proverbial hay is in the proverbial hay barn.
Yeah.
Don't change anything.
That's the main thing.
If you're worried about cutting weight, it's too late now. If you're worried about should I stop drinking caffeine so I'll have a bigger, it's too late now.
Yeah.
You don't. If this was a month ago, or if
Yeah.
this was even 10 days ago,
Yeah.
the answer would be different. I hesitate to say anything.
Don't even say anything.
Because
don't say it.
You'll try it.
Just the main thing is don't change anything. The biggest thing is so many people will try a new technique out, or they'll eat different foods, or they'll be like,
they'll even wear a different belt.
Yeah.
Like
I got new shoes for the comp. Like I'm just like, you so often see these people being like, they'll be really clean eaters, you know, and they'll be really like chicken and rice, chicken and broccoli. They'll be like falafel and broccoli, whatever it is they do. They'll be really diligent and they'll be phenomenal. They'll be great athletes. And then on the competition day, they've seen people like eating loads of jellies and chocolate and shit. And then they'll eat a shitload of them. And they'll heard about like carb loading the night before. And they eat like 2 fucking pizzas and stuff. And then they just go to shit the next day because they're just not tolerant to that kind of stuff. They've literally a food hangover the day after or the day of the competition, you know. So just don't change anything. Be cool. Get a full night's sleep. Make sure all your openers are doable 10 out of 10 times. And then, don't expect anything. Build on it for your next comp. But the first comp, just be like, be cool. Be cool.
First comp is a training session. It's a training session for getting better at competitions. Yeah.
It's just a dip in your toe.
Message us next week, and we'll go through what you should do a week before a camp.
Yeah, the next live stream.
I'm not. So if I'm not. I must go collect a load of timber and make cabinets at home. That's why I'm drinking Monster. Also, I wasn't able to sleep last night because we had a terrible time when we were out chasing after some deer, and I was very depressed after it. So
I didn't miss anything. That's all I would say.
Terrible. Okay. Any good books lately? This is Wushu 1984. I read a phenomenal manuscript last night.
What?
It was the owner's manual for a benchtop milling machine that you could add a CNC element to it. So interesting. I want to get either a 3D printer or a CNC milling machine.
I don't know if you're talking about like training books, but in terms of, I read Dune and Dune Messiah again. The first Dune is great. Dune Messiah is a load of bollocks. I'm also reading the Warhammer Horus Heresy. They're getting really fucking boring. I'm on like the 11th one now and I'm fucking sick of it. And there's like 54. So yes, I've read some good books and some not so great books.
Mel Pear says, hey gents, you have a great strength and conditioning or strength for fitness athletes program. Thanks very much for that. Where would I go for a conditioning program? Any recommendations? I have 2 things. If you're a competitive CrossFit athlete and you want one-to-one coaching, we can squeeze you in at some point over the next month or so. If you just want a program, I'm not sure, does Ty do programs?
No.
there's a very good CrossFit coach that we know. His name's Ty Carroll. Will they find him on Instagram doing that?
Tig 90, yeah.
Tig 90.
If you just go to my followers or
Yeah.
following whatever one.
Tig is a very, very good competitive CrossFit coach if you wanted to go to him. That's as far as I go, because I haven't looked at other CrossFit competitor. I've looked at their programs, but not recently, and I wouldn't really want to comment on that. But Tig is very, very good, and he's a phenomenal athlete.
Yeah, great athlete. If you're in Ireland.
Paul McCallie says squat is always the answer.
Squat, strong person. Chance. Oh, here's a good question. Dr. Demographics. The All Blacks are so physical and strong, yet they aren't physically the largest. What do you think is behind this, and of the huge amount of various cleans in their gym videos? So we're actually going to do a reaction to their training in Dublin from like last week, because it's a very interesting video. The thing with the All Blacks is they downsize hugely for like the World Cup. Worked out terribly for them. Now they're definitely sizing up a little bit again, but the Irish team are in phenomenal shape this year in terms of physicality. Obviously, quality
classic.
rugby.
It's 2 years out from the World Cup.
Yeah,
of course we're
at peak performance right now for 2 years out. When else would you be at peak performance?
No, you couldn't possibly.
Not at the World Cup.
Couldn't possibly peak.
No.
At the right time.
So honestly, so like I was talking about in that video yesterday, we always try and talk about performance-enhancing drugs as being part of the equation from a non-judgmental point of view, just being like, this is part of what's happening here. One, they're very, very talented athletes. The genetics from the people in New Zealand just seem to be very, very, very good, especially the older genetics. Maori genetics are phenomenal for physicality, strength, and power. If you look at the NFL, I think it's Polynesian Islanders have like percentage of population of the US have like the highest representation in the NFL. So they have phenomenal power genetics for strength and power, just straight up. Performance-enhancing drugs certainly play a huge part in that.
Also,
good training.
What you need to understand with the All Blacks is their ability to play the game of rugby is better than anyone else's.
Yeah.
Their ball handling from number 1 on the field to number 15 and through to number 23.
Yeah.
Their skill set is larger, and that's why they are the All Blacks. That's why they are this mystical thing. They play their little like tykes rugby in their bare feet. They play rugby all the time. They're phenomenal tacticians of the game.
Yeah.
Their ability to understand the game is different. Now, how they play rugby in the Southern Hemisphere is slightly different from how we play it up here. You can exclude South Africa from that, but they tend to play a very, very
just run on everyone
heads-up game of rugby. So up here, we have very rigidly managed systems, right? Where if you take rugby in Ireland, right, most players are schools players, so they'll play rugby in schools where you have set plays. You know, it's ruck 1, you do this. Ruck 2, you do this. You know where you'll be within 5 meters on the field at the third ruck. You know, it probably won't go too far beyond 3 or 4 phases of play, but everything you do is a set phase of play. So everything is really well controlled. Everything is really well refined. And you get this kind of championship cup style of rugby where everything is a set play. Now you see those tides are starting to change a small bit, but certainly up around here, around Europe, you'll see that brand of rugby being played. With the All Blacks, you don't tend to see that as much. Now you see it when they're breaking down a small bit and games aren't going well, they'll go to a few more set plays. But certainly, like, look at the Irish team from 2 years ago all the way back for the last 20 years. It's very, very set structures. You hit center, then you come back, then you go 3 phases wide, then you come back, and then you'll call another play again. So you appear to be very physical and very strong when you're playing heads up, because you'll run at weak shoulders. You'll run where there's a small bit more space, versus a set game where you're very tactically moving, like we'll call arrow 5. And arrow 5 is hit up in the center, spread it wide, versus arrow 3 would be hit up in the center and come back against you or whatever.
They have phenomenal S&C as well, and it's less to do with their power cleans and more to do with the amount of weight they all bench, on the back squats they can all do. Their
back squats are so good.
They're like their Nordic Falls. Like most of the team can do like full reps from judging those videos from Nordic Falls. Some of them are doing them at like a deficit. So like a great S&C at the peak level. Some people have contacted us saying some of the grassroots S&C is a bit shit, but it seems to, by the time they get there, whoever's taken over is obviously doing a great job and has been, and seems to be very, very classical with their S&C, which is what it should be. You see, like they're measuring like velocity meters and stuff, their back squats and their benching. So everything is the reason the All Blacks.
Literally everything. You're gonna see a bit of a change away from that kind of slender,
it
lighter.
didn't work for them. It didn't. It's not going that way either. Like
when you see what's happened over them the last few years, when they get, so it's not so much just physical domination, but it's that kind of like really high line speed tends to set them back. Really high line speed when they have to put in a phenomenal tackle count really sets them back. So it is like, this is the interesting thing. Like these tides are changing all the time. Like we went through 2006, 2010, huge players constantly getting bigger. French players like Bastro dominating the game. Then you see people coming back again. Then you see South Africans obviously huge at the World Cup. And then you just see this constant tide of over and back.
I think it's kind of getting a bit dirty than it has been in the past. Or it's getting to a peak level again of I feel like I would say better choice of drugs taking across all levels, judging by what's going on, which would make sense as well. You'll never see a whistleblower in rugby, even though there's been attempts for it before, but you'll never see it. But I think
thank God.
But it's certainly, I think a lot more people, a lot of the teams are definitely getting a little bit more nuanced with their doping. If you had to ask me if I could pull up some of my intuition out of thin air, I would say that's a huge part of what's happening. Yeah, and it's never really talked about in rugby.
I feel dirty for even talking about it.
I know you hate you still hate would even talk about that as well. Like, but if there was a field sport made for performance enhancing drugs, it would be
soccer. Franco, let's just stop talking about it. Franco, De Maria, says advice on managing fatigue for judo players. Lifting plus cardio plus sparring is taxing. Also, any tips for aerobic conditioning for judo specifically?
Go on.
I'm going to go first because you robbed the old person question on me.
Sorry.
On this, the best way to manage fatigue is really sensible programming and periodization.
You stole my answer.
So the fact that you're doing lifting plus cardio plus judo, you're pushing them all at the same time, that's the first place you would look. You should look at your year, look at your calendar and say, okay, competition season, this is when I need to be in real good judo shape, right? These are the competitions I want to concentrate on. So then you come back 12 months from that and you say, okay, this is time for big lifts. This is the time where I make my main morphological changes. This is where I become stronger. This is where I pack on some muscle. Then around 3 months after that, you probably say, this is where I really concentrate on speed and power. So I'm using all that strength I've just built up. Then you maintain that speed and power and you go into a higher capacity phase where you bring up your aerobic levels, make sure your blood values are good for good high level conditioning. But now you have a stronger athlete, an athlete who's faster and more powerful, and you're maintaining these levels across the year. And now you start really topping off those conditioning levels. You won't be as strong as you will be at the end of your strength phase when you're actually competing. You'll probably have a drop off of 10 to 15% in max strength. You won't be as fast as you were when you were in your peak speed and power phase, but you'll still maintain around 90% of that. But you'll be a hell of a lot faster, a hell of a lot stronger, and you'll only have a third of the amount of stuff to concentrate on. Your strength training sessions in season for judo should be like 2 easy gym sessions a week, 2 or 3 easy gym sessions, not shifting anything too heavy, not really breaking yourself down. You're just maintaining, you're holding on, you're keeping that proverbial straw in the proverbial straw shed, or hay in the hay shed.
How often can one perform light technique work to hone in coaching cues? Are there any guidelines for weight sets, reps, and such to negatively affect the program? So basically, like the program structure should be facilitating, hopefully, to address what you need for your technique. So it would be good programming would be the answer to this, Abraham, without sounding narky. The answer is just literally good programming should accommodate for this. Your program should help fix this. If you're talking about just practicing a few specific cues before and after every training session is a great time to do this. But that's literally, it's just kind of like the training system as a whole should facilitate this, because the technique and weightlifting are the same thing. They are not independent of each other. They're not separate entities that could be consumed and progressed independent of each other. They are the same thing. They need to be worked on at the same time. So it would say good programming is my answer to this. So that depends.
Okay, we pick a few questions.
Sure. Oh, you have to go soon. Cal's just saying thanks for the program. He's finished the rugby career because of a head injury, so powerlifting's doing great. That's
it's great to hear. Or sorry, it's not great to hear you to stop
great
playing,
about the
but
program.
yeah.
Richard Vegan Gaines is there. Hello, Richard. Got a random coach to fix my squats. So good morning, Ken. Felix B says, got a random coach for 6 months to fix my squat. Still have a squat morning. Good morning. Can overhead squat. I've watched many videos, been sure what to do. Buy a Seeking Strength program, and then you'll get added to the Facebook group, and then just put in your videos to the Facebook stream, and we can help you there.
Yeah.
That's the best way.
And if you want more information more quickly, just buy the squat masterclass, and you'll get kind of 2.5 hours there of like just squat knowledge, and buy the program and come into the group then with that gain knowledge. Are you aware Sika means pig in Finnish? Yes, we are. Yeah. We are so aware of that.
Super aware.
If I knew one word in Finnish, it would be Sika. What the word for pig is.
Yeah, pig strength.
But Rufus actually said it Fitz is looking handsome, so I shouldn't have picked him for that. Okay, fellas, with my lower body, I get sore no matter what. Even with a 180 back squat, a deload day, 3 sets of 8 with 60 kilos will cause soreness. Even 25 air squats will. Is that just my life? Scott, that's a number of things, right? So we oftentimes think like, oh, I've weak legs, so I'll get a bigger squat. You get a bigger squat and you still have weak legs, right? So firstly, you have to look at how the squat looks. Like, what are you using during the squat? Because you could have a 180 back squat that is very upright, super high bar, very quad engaged, and you'll have strong legs. You could have a 210 kilo back squat that is very good morning-esque. What do they call it? A morning squat or a
good morning squat.
Yeah, like you could have one of those where you're really bent over and you could still have quite weak legs. I know this because I do. In that case, right, your quads could be very deconditioned. There's also the case where you can be phenomenally good at doing singles, doubles, and triples. You could be able to do them very frequently at relatively high weights, but any amount of volume will kill you. And this is then a work capacity piece. So this is where you can't handle higher reps. That buildup of just like fatigue in the muscle is very, very quick. And in that case, I'd look at doing something like 5 sets of 10 at 50%. If 5 sets of 10 at 50% for 4, 6, 8 weeks in a row still feels hard after all that time, then you really need to work more on your capacity, because it probably is a capacity thing or a mixture between capacity and how the actual squat itself looks.
Chad saying, should the back squat cycle be done by itself? It's 2 days per week, so gentle query. No, you can run. What a lot of people do is run the back squat, the press program, and the deadlift program at the same times, so they'll cover it all. But ideally, with the back squat program, what we rated was for just to replace whatever squats you were doing in your own program, and then you do the rest of stuff, whatever you're doing, and it just replaces the squats.
Wendell wants to know, do you guys use any apps to organize training, or do you use notebooks? I really like notebooks.
I'm a huge fan of notebook when I'm training intensely.
I just love, I have a pile of notebooks at home with my old training in it. I never look at them. I just really enjoy that those notebooks exist.
Aaron is asking about what's the plan of training and stuff. So at the moment, I am training like 3 to 6 times a week, depending on how I feel. So something I like to do every like 2 or 3 years or so is, like every 2 years maybe, is just have periods of where training is not a priority in my life. Sorry, not a priority. It's not the top priority in what I do in my life. So, and for a good reason, it's not through any loss of interest. It's a purposeful reason I would do it, and it is to ensure that, like on days, for example, last weekend I didn't train Saturday or Sunday. So Saturday we went out hunting, and on Sunday I was just doing stuff. I had a couple of errands to run, and as an adult, and I had things to do, and then I could have gone training.
I just out doing my things.
I was just doing things, and then I just decided to I baked the cake instead and didn't go training. And like every time I go training now, I'm really looking forward to going training. Not that I wasn't before, but every training was a necessity before. But now I'm just genuinely enjoying it. I get endorphins after training, and so it's a psychological. I don't have any discipline issues with training. I don't need any resilience stuff. I just need to ensure that I don't wear it out for no reason. So it's November at the moment, and I've been taking easy since well, I've taken easy from like 5 sessions, from like 10 sessions. So I'd probably until February I will continue as such. At the moment, I'm probably still like 140, 160-ish, depending on what I do. Sometimes I just will like stop at 100 kilos and be like, I don't want to do anymore. Very purposely, it's nice to be able to do that.
Look at some of your recent snatches, more than 140 is on the books some days. Like
if I started training again, like it would be very soon if I wanted it to. So realistically, my goal at the moment is to put as many deer in my freezer, so I have enough for most of next year until the next season. And something I'm doing at the moment, which I hate, is higher frequency of hunting. Sorry, not hate. I'll explain that in a second. So higher frequency of hunting means I'm learning some new skills. And while I'm very good at learning new skills as I've gotten older, because you learn the process, it really annoys me being bad at new skills. So that's taking up a lot of my mental capacity. Like literally getting over a gate with a gun and a sling is very ungainly for me, and it really annoys me. So that's kind of taking the priority in my brain for stuff. So like before, what I'd always be thinking about lifts. Sometimes I'm thinking about when are we going to go hunting again? What do I need to do? Thinking about other things. And so that's nice. And so that will remain that way until February. And I'm slowly losing weight as well. So I'm down to like 103. I'll probably go to 100 kilos. And I have to say my technique is benefiting hugely from it. I'm barely squatting, but I could still get like 220 for a couple of reps in the back squat, I'd say. And like 190 or 200 for a front squat, I'd say, if I did like right now without doing any progression. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. And I think February will probably be the beginning of when I'll
make it the trainings.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for the squat and the run again. I'm also starting jiu-jitsu on Monday because someone just rang me and told me they'd sign me up. So my cauliflower ears are not looking forward to that, but it'll be great.
Like if I get my training session done in 45 minutes, I'm pretty happy. Like, I'm like,
yeah.
That's very important. Gabriel talks about this as well. He's like, long and frequent breaks are the key to success. He's kind of joking, but he's kind of not joking. You know, it's important to have periods of time in training where if you go ham at it, you have to accept that for a period of time you can train a little bit easier. Like at the end of by the time I got to Romania, I was really ready for a break, and now I'm really ready to start training again. So that's perfect. That's where you want to be. So you want to come into training block. Like my shoulders feel great, my wrists feel great, everything feels phenomenal. My knees are like slowly getting better again. They're the slowest to catch up, but they're feeling great now as well. My ankles don't hurt when I'm squatting anymore. They were just the nature of loading. So like I'll keep training, let everything get back to like nice and healthy, and then I'll be ready to kind of go, you know. So it's part of the progress. This is as important to progress as it would be for, you know, training 12 times a week and stuff. For me anyway.
There's like 5 or 6 questions here that I'm going to read and shout the answers to.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Oscar Noble, you're using Prelipin's chart and Bomba's, all those things. Don't use them. Just normal linear progression will be perfect. Or else just get a program from someone like a power building program. Hassan Masood asks, what does Sika mean? So Sika is the deer that's around here, the kind of deer. Someone's asking what caliber, 25 odd 6 and 243. Okay.
Can squatting make you slower? I want to gain leg strength for rugby, but don't want to become slower. No, it may temporarily make you slower from fatigue, as would any other activity. You know, you have a certain number of resources throughout the day or throughout every couple of days. So running will probably make you faster to a certain point if you get your squat to a certain degree with appropriate loading, but it definitely won't make you slower. If you try to start squatting now and you're coming into the full season of rugby, it will make you slower because you're not used to it. So give it a chance, see what your loading is like. Maybe wait till the next off season if you have, but it definitely will make you slower. It'll probably make you faster if you do it correctly.
Right. Hope everyone has a great weekend.
Someone's asking about if we make a program for parkour. I don't know really what we would do with that.
Do you know what? If we had 3 or 4 1-to-1 parkour athletes, we'd probably make a program then.
Yeah.
We'd have a lot of experience with them. At the moment, it's like the people who come to us who are parkour people just squat. Because because big squats really help them. Big squats at light body weights really help them.
I got so many questions. Scott's wondering about getting into hunting. He's in the north. You just need to know someone.
You need to know someone. The only way, if you don't know someone, is get on to like the NARGC or one of the kind of Countryside Alliance organizations. Get on to them. They might have a beginner thing, but it's very, very unlikely. You kind of need to know someone.
Sorry, there's one question. Dwayne says, you guys know anything about having opinions about TRT or anything similar, heading down the private route after years of low levels, 4 to 7 nanomoles per liter? I'm 33. So you should definitely make lifestyle changes first, because it can become an irreversible decision, or it may be a decision that will have implications after. If you try to reverse it, it take quite a long time and could make yourself worse. So I would say sleep, diet, and exercise. Micronutrient levels are very, very important for all this. Ensure those are really where it should be, and for a significant period of time. If you've done that, then I would say certainly look into it. Find someone who's good. Find someone who's actually going to give you TRT levels. Find someone that's not going to give you like sports TRT.
Find someone who isn't a drug dealer.
Yeah, find someone who's going to give you an ester of testosterone that's not going to be something that you have to inject like every 6 months or something. Find something that requires moderate frequency. You don't buy into people telling you have to do this kind of every second day frequency to prevent your estrogen. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of hormone saturation in your blood. After a certain period of time, the levels of hormone, if you're taking your ester at the correct dosages and correct frequency, you should be fine. So just make sure someone is doing you right if you're getting TRT. I would say loads of people have had a phenomenal time getting TRT when they needed it, but just make sure you're doing everything. My honest opinion is I wouldn't do it until you really needed to do it. So, for example, you've literally people in their 40s and stuff who still don't need it, So, like you're saying, you've quite low levels, but just make sure you're doing everything right. If you're watching this, you probably are doing all the stuff you'd need to do. But I would say just make sure you find someone, depending on what country you're in.
Yeah.
Just make sure you find someone who's going to take care of you and not kind of fuck you over, because there's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of fucking charlatans and fucking witch doctors and stuff.
That's the disadvantage. You'll probably have to go private here, like private medical, but the disadvantage is like their businesses,
Yes.
They're the same as if you come to us, we're going to sell you a program. Like if you come to a hormonal clinic, they're going to sell you hormones more than likely.
Yeah. So just be really careful who you go to, but it'll be phenomenal if you have no issues. You'll feel like a new person from what I've heard from anyone who's ever got it done. Like life changing for some people. So that's great. But just make sure you're doing, make sure someone's not fucking you over, and they're not trying to sell you a load of fucking like NAD plus or NAC or
intravenous ketamine.
Yeah, and N-acetylcysteine, float tanks. Be just wary of that. Make sure someone sounds like you, and when someone's bullshitting you. A lot of people know when someone's talking nonsense. So if you get that vibe from the private TRT fella, just suss out other people if you can. I would say, if not, you should be fine.
For all the shooting people, we have a class guest on next week.
Yeah, it's from South Africa.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, it won't be next week, but we can. Oh, it might be next week.